The night was cold and silent. The wind howled across the frozen plains, brushing against the metal walls of a small human shelter. Inside, Eli, a tired human soldier, sat alone beside a dying fire. The war was over months ago, but its echo still lived in his mind. Every night he heard the sounds of screams, of engines burning, of orders shouted across the battlefield. He wanted peace, but peace never truly came. Eli looked outside through the cracked window. Snow fell like ashes from a dead sky. The planet was quiet now. No soldiers, no noise, no command calls. Just him in the endless cold. He had built this cabin from broken ship parts, trying to live out the rest of his life far away from everything. Then, a knock, a single slow knock on the door. Eli froze. He hadn't heard another voice in weeks. His hand reached for the old plasma pistol on the table. Another knock, louder this time. The sound echoed through the cabin like thunder. He stood up carefully, gun in hand. "Who's there?" He called out, no answer. Only the wind replied, whispering through the cracks in the walls. He moved closer to the door, his boots crunching on the frozen floor. His heart beat faster. Was it a scavenger? A leftover enemy soldier? Or worse, one of the alien patrols that still hunted humans after the ceasefire? A weak voice came through the door. A woman's voice. Soft shaking. "Please, human, open the door." Eli's grip tightened. That voice, it wasn't human. It had that slight echo, that strange tone only the alien race called the Terai had. His heart sank. The Terai were the reason he had lost everything. His unit, his friends, his world. And now one of them was outside asking to come in. "Go away." Eli shouted. "I don't help your kind." Silence. Then a sound, not of anger but of crying. Soft, desperate sobs that cut through the cold air. Then the same voice, trembling and full of pain. "Please, human. My children need a father." Eli blinked. For a moment he thought he misheard her. Children? He unlocked the door halfway and opened it just enough to see who was outside. The freezing wind burst in, carrying flakes of snow into the room. Standing there was an alien woman, tall and cloaked in torn fabric. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly in the darkness. Her eyes were large and full of sorrow. Behind her, two small alien children clung to her legs, shaking in the cold. The smallest one coughed weakly. Eli lowered his weapon slightly. "You shouldn't be here," he said coldly. "Humans aren't welcome to your kind, remember?" The woman nodded slowly. "I know. But there is nowhere left for us. My mate is dead. My home is gone, please. My children are freezing." Eli looked at the children again. They were thin, trembling, their small eyes staring up at him with fear and hope. Something inside him twisted. He hated himself for hesitating. "Please," the woman said again, her voice breaking. "Let us stay for one night." Just one night. Eli looked at the fire. It was almost out. He had enough food for maybe 3 days. He didn't trust her, but he couldn't let them die outside either. He sighed. "All right. One night." The woman bowed her head, whispering something in her alien tongue. She stepped in carefully, holding her children close. The warm air of the cabin touched their faces, and the smallest child smiled weakly. Eli closed the door and locked it behind them. He watched as the alien woman sat near the fire, her hands glowing faintly as she placed them near the coals. The fire suddenly grew brighter, warmer. Eli frowned. "How did you do that?" She looked up at him. "My people share heat. It is part of us. We give warmth to those who need it." The room grew quiet again. Eli sat on the other side of the fire, his eyes fixed on her. The children slowly fell asleep beside her, their breathing calm. The woman looked at him once more and whispered, "Thank you, human." Eli said nothing. He stared at the flames. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? What did she want? And why had she come to him? Outside, the storm howled louder, but inside the small cabin, warmth returned. Not just from the fire, but from something deeper. And as the night grew darker, Eli couldn't shake one thought from his mind. Why did she say her children needed a father? The storm outside howled through the long night, shaking the cabin walls like an angry spirit. Inside, Eli sat awake beside the small fire, his eyes fixed on the alien woman and her 2 children sleeping near the corner. Their soft breathing mixed with the crackling of the firewood. He couldn't sleep. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? Why had she come to him? And why those strange words? "My children need a father." The alien woman looked peaceful as she slept, but something about her made him uneasy. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, as if the warmth inside her body was made of light. Her hands were wrapped protectively around her children, sharing that strange glow with them. It looked gentle, almost human. Eli shook his head. "Don't be fooled," he whispered to himself. "They're the reason your friends are dead." But his heart argued with his mind. The image of the small child coughing in the snow replayed again and again. He sighed, stood up, and placed another piece of wood on the fire. Just then a sound. Soft footsteps behind him. He turned fast, hand on his pistol. The alien woman stood awake, her glowing eyes watching him quietly. "I didn't mean to startle you," she said in a low voice. "I heard you moving." Eli lowered the weapon slowly. "You should rest. The storm isn't over." She walked closer to the fire, her movements graceful and slow. "I can't sleep," she said. "Every sound outside makes me afraid they've found us." "Who?" Eli asked. She looked into the flames for a long time before answering. "The soldiers of my kind. The ones who still hunt anyone who helped humans during the war." Eli frowned. "You helped humans?" "Yes," she said quietly. "My mate did. He was a translator for the peace talks. He believed the war could end with words, not blood." "And what happened to him?" Eli asked, though part of him already knew. "They killed him," she whispered. "For betrayal." The silence that followed was heavy. The only sound was the crackling fire. Eli stared at her, trying to read her expression. Her eyes were filled with pain, not anger. "So, you came here because you think I can protect you?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I found your signal beacon in the ruins. I followed it. You were the only human left in this zone. I had nowhere else to go." Eli sighed. "You shouldn't have come. My supplies are low and I can't keep you safe if your people find out." She looked at him, her voice trembling. "Then I will not ask for safety. Only warmth. Only kindness." Her words cut deep into his chest. He tried to speak but couldn't. The way she said warmth wasn't just about heat. It was about something else. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. He turned away, pretending to check his gear. "You should eat something," he said. She nodded and reached for the small ration pack he placed near her. Her fingers brushed his hand for a second, soft, warm, alive. Eli froze. Her touch sent a strange calmness through him, like a small fire spreading in his chest. She noticed his reaction and pulled her hand back. "I am sorry," she said softly. "Your kind does not like to be touched." He shook his head. "It's fine." They ate in silence for a while. The storm outside finally began to fade. The sky was still dark, but the wind had softened into a whisper. The two alien children woke up. One of them looked at Eli curiously and asked something in a language he didn't understand. The woman smiled gently. "He's asking if you are the human who saved us," she said. "I didn't save anyone," Eli replied. "I just opened a door." "To us," she said, looking at him with a faint smile. "That means everything." Her words struck something inside him again, something he thought was long dead. As the night turned to dawn, Eli sat beside the window, watching the dim light spread across the icy horizon. Behind him, he heard her soft voice again. "My name is Sira," she said, "and if we stay here, I can help you keep this place warm." Eli turned to look at her. "How?" She placed her hand on the metal wall. A gentle glow spread through the surface, melting the frost and filling the room with soft heat. He stared in disbelief. "You can do that?" She smiled faintly. "It is what my kind does for those we care about." Eli didn't answer. He just watched her as she covered her children with a blanket of light. The storm was gone, but inside Eli's heart, a new kind of storm had begun. One made of confusion, fear, and something dangerously close to warmth. The morning came slow and pale. A thin light crept through the cracks of Eli's cabin, touching the metal walls and broken screens. The fire had gone out, but the air was still warm, the kind of warmth that felt alive. Eli sat by the window, staring out at the silent white land. The war had turned this world into a grave of ice and ash. Nothing moved outside, not even the wind. Yet somehow he didn't feel alone anymore. Behind him he could hear quiet laughter, soft voices, the alien children playing with the few small tools he had on the table. He turned to see them trying to balance an old wrench, giggling when it fell. Their mother, Sira, sat nearby, watching them with a tired but gentle smile. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the light, and her eyes looked softer than last night. Eli tried not to watch her, but he couldn't help it. Something about her calmness disturbed him. How could someone from the enemy side look so peaceful, so human? He took a breath and asked, "So what will you do now?" Sierra looked up slowly. "We will stay until it is safe," she said. "Then we'll go north to the old human base. I heard rumors there are people building a new colony." Eli frowned. "That's a long way through frozen fields and drone zones. You won't make it with children." "Then we will try," she said softly. "I have no choice." Her words carried quiet pain. Eli saw how thin she was, how she tried to stay strong for her children. He wanted to say something kind, but the old bitterness inside him wouldn't let him. He stood up. "I'll check the fuel cells," he said, putting on his coat. "Stay inside." Outside, the cold hit him like a blade. He walked around the cabin checking the sensors. One of them was blinking red, movement detected last night not far from the ridge. He frowned. Maybe animals, or maybe not. When he came back, Sierra was feeding her children from a small metal pack. She looked up as he entered. "Is everything all right?" "For now," Eli said. "But something moved near the ridge last night." "Could be a patrol drone." Her face turned pale. "They found us," she whispered. "Maybe not," he said. "But we should be ready." She nodded slowly, holding her children close. The smaller one looked frightened. Eli felt a pang in his chest. He remembered the refugees, the families he saw during the war, crying as everything burned. He took out his rifle and checked the battery. "If they come, I'll handle it." Sierra stared at him for a long moment. "Why would you help us, human?" she asked quietly. He looked down at the weapon. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe because I'm tired of watching people die." Her eyes softened. "You have a kind heart, even if you hide it." He gave a small, humorless smile. "Don't mistake pity for kindness." She stood up and walked closer. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something unspoken. "You saved my children," she said. "That is kindness." Before Eli could answer, a faint hum echoed from outside, low and mechanical. He froze. Sierra's eyes widened. "A drone," she whispered. Eli grabbed his rifle and rushed to the window. Through the fog of snow, he saw it. A small black drone hovering low, scanning the area with red light. "Down," he hissed. He pushed Sierra and the children behind the metal crates. The drone's red beam swept across the cabin's outer wall. For a long minute, no one moved. The hum grew louder, then slowly drifted away. Eli exhaled and lowered his gun. "It's gone," but Sierra shook her head. "No, they always come in pairs." Eli cursed softly. He grabbed his jacket. "I'll check the perimeter." Sierra reached out and grabbed his arm. Her touch was warm, trembling. "Don't go. Please." He looked at her hand, small, glowing faintly against his rough skin. For a moment he felt something deep inside, fear but not of death. It was the fear of feeling again. "I'll be fine," he said quietly, pulling away. "Lock the door behind me." As he stepped outside, the cold hit his face, sharp and cruel. He moved through the snow, scanning the sky. And then he saw it. The second drone, half hidden behind a ridge, its red eye fixed on his cabin. Eli raised his rifle, aimed, and fired. The shot cut through the silence, hitting the drone squarely. It exploded in a flash of blue sparks. He stared at the smoke curling into the sky, and then his heart sank. That smoke was a beacon. They would come now. Inside the cabin, Sierra pressed her children close, whispering in her language. Eli rushed in and locked the door. "They know," he said. "They'll be here by nightfall." Sierra met his eyes, afraid but also strangely calm. "Then we stand together," she said softly. Eli nodded slowly. "Together, then." Outside, the wind carried the faint sound of engines, coming closer. And for the first time in years, Eli felt something burning in his chest again. Not anger, not hate, something human. The sky darkened long before sunset. Black clouds rolled over the icy plain like a warning. Eli stood by the window, watching the horizon where smoke still rose from the destroyed drone. His jaw tightened. He knew what that smoke meant. They would come. Behind him, Sierra was packing what little food they had. Her hands shook as she folded a small blanket around her two children. They were silent now, sensing the fear in the air. Eli turned to her. "We have two choices," he said. "Hide or fight. Sierra looked up, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. They will search every cave, every ruin. We can't run forever. Then we make a stand, Eli said. Here, her lips trembled. You would fight your death for us? Eli checked the charge on his plasma rifle. Death doesn't scare me anymore, he said. But watching someone innocent die again, that does. Sierra stared at him, her throat tightening. She wanted to say something, but no words came. Outside, the air trembled with a distant hum, deep, rhythmic, mechanical. The sound of transport ships. The Terai hunters were coming. Eli moved fast. He pulled out crates, dragged metal panels, and began reinforcing the windows. Keep the children behind the wall, he said. If they get in, use this. He tossed her a small human pistol. She caught it awkwardly, staring at it like it was poison. I don't kill. Then protect, he said sharply. Because they won't hesitate. Minutes passed like seconds. The hum grew louder. Sierra placed her children in a small space behind the furnace and whispered something in her native tongue. A prayer, maybe. Then she joined Eli by the door. You don't have to do this, she said softly. He smirked faintly. You came to my door, remember? Seems I'm involved now. Before she could answer, the first explosion shook the ground. Snow and ice burst from the ridge as a beam cannon fired, hitting the side of the cabin. Metal screamed, down! Eli shouted. He grabbed Sierra and pulled her behind the wall as the blast tore through part of the roof. Sparks rained down. Eli rolled, raised his rifle, and fired through the shattered window. The blue bolt hit one of the alien soldiers outside. The figure fell, its armor glowing before turning still. Sierra flinched. They won't stop! I'm counting on it, Eli said, reloading. Means I don't have to aim far. Another explosion hit nearby, shaking the ground again. The children began to cry softly. Sierra crawled to them, holding them tight. It's all right, she whispered. It's all right, my little stars. Outside, voices shouted in the alien tongue, harsh, commanding. Eli peeked out and saw 3 of them moving forward, their armor glowing red under the clouds. They carried pulse rifles, deadly at close range. Eli ducked and whispered, They're flanking us. Sierra looked at the walls, her glowing hands trembling. I can help, she said. He frowned. How? She pressed her palms against the floor, her body glowing brighter. Our energy can melt metal, or make it stronger. The cabin walls began to shimmer faintly like the surface of hot glass. Eli stepped back, amazed. The air grew warm, humming with power. Don't push yourself, he warned. She looked up, sweat on her silver skin. If I don't, they'll take my children. I will not let them. The next explosion hit the door, but it didn't break. The glowing metal held firm. Eli grinned. Not bad. He kicked open a side hatch and rolled out, firing at the nearest soldier. The plasma bolt hit true. Another beam grazed his arm, searing pain shooting up to his shoulder. He dropped behind a rock, teeth clenched. Through the snow, he saw the last hunter aiming at the cabin. Eli shouted, No, and ran toward him, firing again. The alien soldier turned just in time to see the blast, and too late. The bolt tore through his armor. Eli fell to his knees, breathing hard. His arm burned, blood freezing on his sleeve. The battlefield was silent again. Only the wind moved now. He staggered back to the cabin. Sierra ran out, eyes wide with fear. You're hurt. I've been worse, he muttered, leaning against the door. She helped him inside, her hands glowing as she pressed them to his wound. The pain faded slowly, replaced by warmth. He looked at her, confused. What are you doing? Healing, she said softly. Our energy can close wounds if shared. He blinked at her. Why help me? She smiled faintly, her voice trembling. Because you helped us. And because I don't want my children to lose another father. Eli stared at her, speechless. For the first time, he saw her not as an alien, not as the enemy, but as someone who had lost everything. Just like him. Outside, the smoke from the battle rose into the dark sky, a silent signal for more danger to come. But for now, inside the broken cabin, there was only quiet and warmth. The war outside would come again soon. But something stronger had begun here, something neither of them could name yet, something human. The night came heavy and quiet after the battle. Snow fell again, covering the black marks on the ground where alien soldiers had burned. Inside the broken cabin, the air smelled of smoke, metal, and blood. Eli sat near the fire, his arm wrapped in bandages. The pain had faded, thanks to Sierra's strange healing energy, but the weight in his chest grew heavier with every breath. He knew this peace would not last. Sierra sat across from him, silent, her children asleep beside her. The youngest held one of Eli's gloves in his small hand, refusing to let go. Eli looked at them, then at Sierra. "They'll come again," he said. "You know that," Sierra nodded slowly. "They will come for me, and for you because you helped us." Eli gave a tired laugh. "Story of my life. Always picking the wrong side." Her eyes softened. "You picked the side of life. That is never wrong." Outside, a low rumble broke the silence. The sound of engines, then closer, heavier this time. Sierra stood up, her body tensing. Eli reached for his rifle. "They found us faster than I thought," he said grimly. Through the cracked window he saw lights, moving fast across the snow. There were more ships this time, maybe 10 soldiers or more. He turned to Sierra. "You have to take the kids and run." She shook her head. "We have nowhere to go. You can't stay here." "They'll kill you," Eli said. "And you?" she asked softly. Eli loaded his rifle. "I'll hold them off. I've done it before." She moved closer, her voice shaking. "You can't fight them alone." "I don't have to win," he said. "Just buy you time." Her hands began to glow faintly. "No, human. Not this time. I will fight beside you." Eli stared at her. "You'll die," Sierra smiled sadly. "If I die protecting my children, that's not death. That's purpose." The engines roared louder. The walls trembled. The children woke, crying softly. Sierra kissed their foreheads. "Stay quiet, my stars. Stay hidden." Then she stood beside Eli, her glow spreading like fire through the cold cabin. When the first explosion hit, the door flew open. Blinding light filled the room as alien soldiers stormed in, shouting orders in their language. Eli opened fire. The first 2 soldiers fell instantly. Sparks lit the air. Plasma bolts tore through the walls. Sierra raised her hands, her energy flaring bright silver. The air shimmered as she created a glowing shield around Eli. The alien shots hit the barrier and dissolved like smoke. Eli looked at her in awe. "You can stop plasma fire?" "Not for long," she said, her voice trembling. "It burns my life away." "Then stop." "No," she shouted. "You protect, I endure." Her glow grew brighter, almost blinding. Eli fired again, taking down another soldier. But the cabin was collapsing. Fire and light filled the air. Sierra fell to her knees, breathing hard. "Eli," she whispered. He ran to her side, grabbing her shoulders. "Stay with me." She looked up, tears in her glowing eyes. "If I stop, they'll break through. I don't care." "I need you alive." Her voice broke. "You already saved me once, human. Now it's my turn." Eli turned toward the door and saw the last soldier charging a heavy weapon, a rail cannon. He aimed at them. Without thinking, Eli threw himself forward, pulling Sierra with him. The cannon fired. The blast hit the ground beside them, tearing the floor apart. The explosion threw them against the wall. Eli's head rang. When he opened his eyes, the cabin roof was half gone, fire glowing above them. He looked down. Sierra lay still in his arms, her glow dimming. "No, no, don't you dare." He pressed his hand against her chest. Her skin was cold. "Sierra, stay with me." Her eyes opened weakly. "You are warm," she whispered. "You kept your promise." "What promise?" he asked, his voice breaking. She smiled faintly. "When I said my children need a father, I didn't know I'd find one for myself too." Her glow faded completely. Eli held her close, feeling her warmth disappear. Around him, silence fell again. The wind outside carried away the smoke. He didn't notice the alien soldiers retreating or the ships leaving. They had lost their leader. Sierra had been one of their own, a traitor marked for death. With her gone, their mission was done. Eli sat alone beside her body, staring into the dying fire. The children slept quietly in the corner, unaware. Tears fell down his face, freezing before they touched the ground. For the first time in years, Eli cried not for war, not for pain, but for love. He looked at the sleeping children and whispered, "I'll take care of you. I promise." Outside, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. The world was still cold, but inside that cabin a new kind of warmth had been born. The warmth of a human heart that refused to stop caring, even in the face of loss. The world outside was silent again. Snow fell gently through the hole in the roof, landing on the still body of Sierra. The battle was over. The fire had burned down to gray ash. Eli sat beside her, his hand resting on her cold arm. The children slept close together, unaware of what had happened. The cabin smelled of smoke and metal, and the air felt empty without her glow. Hours passed. The sun rose slowly over the frozen land, painting the snow gold. Eli's eyes were red. He had seen too many deaths in his life, but this one cut deeper than any bullet wound. He looked at Sierra's face. Calm, peaceful, as if she were just sleeping. Her silver skin no longer glowed. He whispered, "You didn't deserve this." He stood, his body weak and shaking. He wrapped her in a blanket and carried her outside. The wind was soft, the sky clear for once. He laid her gently on the snow beside the cabin. He wanted to bury her, but the ground was too hard. Instead, he knelt and spoke softly. "You gave your life for your children, and for me. I'll protect them, I swear it." As he turned to go back inside, a faint shimmer touched the corner of his eye, a flicker of light from the snow. He stopped and looked back. Sierra's body was glowing again. At first he thought it was just the sunlight, but then the light grew brighter, spreading through the blanket like a slow heartbeat. Eli blinked, disbelief twisting inside him. No, it can't be. The snow around her began to melt in a perfect circle. A low hum filled the air, soft, alive, familiar. Her chest moved, once, then again. Eli dropped to his knees beside her. "Sierra, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slightly. The silver glow returned, weak but real. Her voice was barely a whisper. "It hurts." He touched her face, shaking. "You're alive." "You're alive." Her eyes met his. "No, not alive. Not the same." The warmth, it chose me again. He didn't understand, but he didn't care. She was breathing, and that was enough. He carried her inside, placing her near the fire. The children woke, eyes wide when they saw their mother glowing faintly. "Mama!" they cried, rushing to her. She opened her arms, weak but smiling, and they buried themselves against her chest. Eli sat beside them, watching the light dance across their faces. For the first time in months, he felt something like peace. When the children fell asleep again, Sierra looked at him. "I shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Our kind are not meant to return once the light leaves." "Then why did it?" he asked. She closed her eyes. "Because you shared your warmth with me. You held me when I faded. The energy, it followed that connection. It brought me back through you." Eli's throat tightened. "You mean," she nodded weakly. "Part of me lives because of you, and part of you now carries my light." He stared at his hands. For a moment he thought he saw them glow faintly. Just a flash, then gone. "Guess we're both cursed," he said quietly. "Not cursed," Sierra whispered, "linked." Outside, the wind began to howl again, but this time it sounded softer, almost kind. Eli leaned back against the wall, exhaustion finally hitting him. "We can't stay here. More soldiers will come." Sierra nodded slowly. "There's a cave north of here. My people used it before the war. It's hidden under the ice." He looked at her, amazed that she could still think of survival after all she'd been through. "You should rest first," she smiled faintly. "I will, but not for long. My children still need a father." Eli looked at the two sleeping kids. "Then I guess I'm not going anywhere." Sierra reached out, her hand trembling as it touched his. "You could have left us, human. You could have walked away." He met her eyes. "I've walked away too many times before." Their hands stayed together as the firelight flickered. The warmth between them felt different now, not just from her alien glow, but from something deeper, something that didn't need words. Outside, the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Eli whispered, "You came to my door asking for warmth." Sierra smiled, her eyes soft and shining. "And you gave it to me, human, even when your world was cold." The storm returned that night, but inside the cabin it could not touch them. The warmth had returned, not from fire or light, but from love that refused to die. And for the first time since the war, Eli believed that maybe, just maybe, peace was possible. Days passed after the battle. The world outside the cabin began to change. The endless storm calmed. The sky, once gray and cruel, now showed hints of pale blue. Eli stood outside, staring at the horizon. The snow stretched far and wide, untouched, peaceful. Behind him, inside the cabin, he could hear Sierra humming softly while her children played. The sound made his heart ache in a way he couldn't explain, part sorrow, part joy. He had thought his life ended with the war. But somehow in this frozen wasteland it had begun again. Sira stepped outside, wrapped in a thick coat made from old human fabric. The faint silver glow under her skin was weaker now, but still there, soft and steady. She looked at the sky and smiled. It's warmer today, Eli nodded. Maybe the planet's healing. She turned to him. Or maybe we are. For a moment they stood quietly, listening to the wind whisper over the snow. The peace felt fragile, like a glass that could break any moment. Then Eli saw it. Far in the distance, a glint of light moving across the horizon. His hand went to his rifle out of habit. Company, he muttered. Sirah looked worried. Soldiers? Eli focused, watching the slow movement. No, not soldiers. That's a transport. Human. Within an hour, the transport ship landed nearby. Its engines hissed softly as the ramp lowered. A group of human officers stepped out, wearing clean armor marked with the insignia of the Peace Reconstruction Corps. One of them, a woman with sharp eyes, approached. Eli Morgan, she called. Captain Eli Morgan of the 8th Division? Eli hesitated, then nodded. That was a long time ago, she smiled faintly. We've been tracking your old distress signal. We didn't think anyone survived out here. Her eyes moved past him and to Sira and her children standing in the doorway. Her expression changed. Are those... Terai? Eli stepped forward protectively. They're under my care, the officer frowned. You know harboring alien fugitives is still a crime under a war that's already over. Eli interrupted firmly. They're not soldiers. Their family. The silence that followed was heavy. The officer looked at Sira again, then at the children hiding behind her legs. Something in her face softened. Family, huh? That's a new one. Sira stepped forward slowly. Her voice was calm but strong. We only wish to live. My people and yours have bled enough. The officer looked at her for a long time, then sighed. Maybe it's time someone showed the world what peace looks like. She turned back to her team. Record this. Human and Terai, together. If Command wants proof that this war can end, they just got it. Eli felt a strange weight lift off his chest. For the first time, no one was pointing a gun at them. Later that evening, as the humans set up a temporary camp near the cabin, Eli and Sira sat by the fire again. The children slept beside them, tired but safe. Sira looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. You did this, human. You turned war into peace. Eli shook his head. No, you did. You came to my door when the world told you not to. You asked for warmth. You made me remember what being human means. She smiled faintly. Then maybe both our kinds can learn again, and from warmth. The fire crackled between them. Outside, the stars shone bright over the frozen land, countless lights stretching forever. Sira leaned closer, her voice quiet. When I first saw you, I thought you would kill me. Instead, you gave my children a father. Eli's voice broke slightly. You gave me a reason to live. For a while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. The next morning, the transport ship lifted off, carrying the message of peace back to the human colonies. A new treaty would be written, one that spoke not of hatred, but of healing, and it would begin with a single story. Years later, travelers spoke of a place far in the north, a cabin where the air was always warm, even in the coldest storms. They said a human and a silver-skinned alien lived there with 2 children who had eyes that shimmered like stars. No one ever fought near that place again. And when the wind passed over the cabin at night, it carried whispers through the ice, not of war but of love, sacrifice, and the unbreakable warmth of humanity. The warmth that began with a single knock at a lonely human's door.